City Council Special Meeting Workshop agenda. The approval, go ahead and call a roll for us, Bridget.
Mayor Beasley,
Here.
Councilmember Seifert,
Here.
Councilmember Kohler,
Here.
Councilmember Van Hees, Councilmember Sanders, Councilmember Straven.
Present.
Perfect. Thank you. So I would like to get an approval of the meeting agenda that's before you. It's a 7-item agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So passes. I kick it off to the wonderful Amanda for her 2026 periodic update.
All right, so the presentation you're getting tonight is a workshop on financial and regulatory incentives for housing. Some of the slides are gonna look familiar because we've seen them before, and then I have updated information as we've proceeded through the update process. Next page. So as everybody knows, we've heard this before, per the GMA housing goal, the city is required to plan for and accommodate housing affordable to all segments of the population of the state, promote a variety of residential densities and housing types, and encourage preservation of existing housing stock. As part of the update, we have to implement the comprehensive plan and adequate provisions for all economic segments in the development regulations with the periodic update. This was reinforced with the case law out of Mercer Island. So when we first started our comp plan, there were certain guidelines that we thought, were good. Well, after the Mercer Island case, we got some additional requirements. And if you remember right, at the very end of the comp plan update, we had to add that little provision in on $650,000, whatever per year, based on their calculation. That was because of the Mercer Island update. So now we're taking this into the development regulation side. Next. So again, after the Mercer Island case decision, Commerce has recommended that housing elements, number one, identify sufficient land capacity for all housing. We did that in the comp plan. To identify barriers to affordable housing and list local actions needed to address these barriers or adequate provisions. We did that in the comp plan. To provide analysis of the number of housing units that need subsidies or incentives and the funds required for these units. Again, we did that in the comp plan. That was part of the last, part 2 that was done in February and March. And then finally, identify potential funding sources for housing needs. We also did that in the comp plan, and now we're pulling it forward. Go ahead. So Commerce also recommends that the development regulations adopted with the periodic update make the zoning changes necessary to ensure capacity for all housing needs and reduce regulatory barriers. The Millwood Municipal Code updates are in final draft form. We have addressed everything and the Planning Commission has been reviewing them. I say in February, but really it started last fall with the drafts. And our anticipated public hearing and recommendation will come out in August. We have a public workshop with the Planning Commission at the end of this month. And then the regulatory changes that we've utilized to address the housing barriers include estimating the affordable housing fund gap. So I already discussed that. So that's where we got the amount that was needed. Go ahead, next slide. And based on that analysis in the comp plan, 60 dwelling units or an average of 3 units annually were needed for affordable housing in Millwood. And that's anywhere in the 0 to 50% bracket. So as I previously had stated, the city doesn't need to purchase or construct anything, but it does have to plan for and accommodate, which Millwood has done. The $652,000 funding gap does not include the money that would be paid by tenants or occupants. So as we're going through these options, we have to keep that number in the back of our mind and think with the regulatory suggestions that we've done, do you think we can get there kind of thing? So go ahead. So compliance options for Millwood. The first slide was already outlined with the adoption of the comp plan. So the first thing was collaborating with housing agencies, et cetera. So we would continue to collaborate as needed with Spokane Housing Authority, with SNAP, Spokane Housing Ventures, et cetera. We would also continue to have an HCDAC representative, which Councilmember Kohler is currently the Millwood representative. That suffices for implementation action number 7. For implementation action number 36, we would be able to advertise, like on the city website, a page with resources. So we could advertise Spokane Regional Land Bank, we could advertise Habitat for Humanity, First Story, et cetera. Anybody that can help facilitate opportunities for the property owners to connect with housing providers and nonprofit organizations to create and preserve affordable housing. So those two are pretty easy. The middle ones that we came out of the comp plan was evaluate and modify, if necessary, the city's development code fee structure. So I've spoke with utilities, and some of the options were exemptions, waivers, or a reduction of charges normally assessed to residential development in exchange for the construction of affordable housing. This could include discount on planning fees. It could also include deferred sewer and water connection fees as set forth in any resolution by the council. Utilities prefers not to utilize waivers because the city would be on the hook for installing the infrastructure originally, but they were okay with deferment if it needed to be utilized. If we are going to implement number 23 there, we need clear eligibility criteria, such as setting a threshold of affordability, so less than 50% of the median family income. We would need a minimum number or percentage of units that must be affordable. So if it's a, let's say if it's a 5-plex, we'd have to have 50% of those, so 3, be affordable. And then the time period within which these units must remain to be set at an affordable level. We have added a fairness waiver provision in the draft of MMC 1416. And so we have a little bit of wiggle room in there, but it would need to be implemented on the resolution level. Next. So another one that's already in process is the Washington Main Street Community Designation. This would provide some B&O or public utility tax credits for private contributions given to eligible downtown organizations. So once Millwood Community Association is able to obtain a full Washington Main Street designation, then this tool can be utilized. So this is in our toolbox and ready to go when that occurs. Okay, next. Another one that we looked at and it was suggested in the comp plan was looking at a pre-approved ADU program. Well, I started with what is already available before we jump to that next. And what is already available is under the RCWs, low income and or seniors may benefit from property tax exemptions for their homes and an ADU. So senior citizens occupying the primary residence can claim an exemption once taxes have been imposed after an ADU has been constructed. This can be used by a person who sells, transfers, or is displaced from their residence under certain circumstances, tax year 2025 plus. So that is already available. City doesn't have to do anything. And then ADUs may also qualify for a 3-year tax exemption via a form filled out with the Spokane County Assessor. And basically it talks about when you're making improvements to a single family dwelling. The homeowner would need to file for that exemption, and then it's cannot be done more than once in a 5-year period. So those are available. The next question was gonna come out is how much are ADUs gonna cost? So whatever we do, how much is it really gonna benefit? Well, based on my research, even if we were to provide some utility waivers, even if we are to provide a pre-approved ADU program, and we'll get into that a little more on the next slide, really, I think your best bet for homeowners, if they're on an extremely tight budget, is to go with a factory-built ADU. When you look at the comparisons, prefab units save approximately 20%. Even with a pre-approved ADU program, you're saving the design fees. and that's about it. So I think a prefab is still, and that puts it back to the private sector. Next. So, continuing on with the pre-approved ADU program, we would provide pre-reviewed and approved detached ADU plans. So it wouldn't be for attached, it'd only be for detached. The city would select the designs, so they are compatible with neighborhood character and meet local market demands. The site plan review would be through the city of Millwood. We could provide fee waivers if we so desire. The building permit application would be reviewed through City of Spokane Valley Building Department, just as it is now, with the site-dependent portion plus the permit processing. And then it would be standard construction inspections. In talking with the Valley, essentially what you're doing on the Valley side is waiving the plan review fee for the construction itself. The estimated cost to the city on this would be up to $50,000 for designs, because you have to hire an architect to do the designs. You could do an open submission or a design competition, or a city commission designs, either one. If you do a design competition, obviously it's not gonna cost the city as much. However, is Millwood big enough to attract that? That's more of a Redmond type level. An initial building permit review fees for each of the plans. So approximately $1,500 more or less, depending on the ADU value, and then the staff time for setting up the program. The benefit to the applicants would be saving approximately 10% of the ADU cost for design, so in the range of $11,000 to $28,000. Maintaining up to 5% for site-specific design, and again, prefabricated units would probably already save this. You'd be approximately $500 savings on a building plan review and faster permit review and processing time. And I provided a bunch of links. Those are all cities and counties in Washington that currently have pre-approved programs. Next. The next is the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy and Resiliency, or the CPACER program. This is actually advertised on City of Spokane's website. It is one that is available throughout Spokane County, but it hasn't really been advertised so much that it's available. It's private sector. The city really doesn't need to do, again, anything on this, but it's something that is through the lending institutions. Next. Number 5, new markets tax credit benefits. So again, this is something the city would just need to advertise, that it's available. Millwood is eligible for participating, and the program incentivizes community development and economic growth by using tax credits that attract private investment to distressed communities, which Millwood is listed as eligible. The program, again, attracts the private capital into low-income communities by permitting individual and corporate investors to receive a tax credit against the federal income tax in exchange for making equity investments with the specialized financial intermediaries. So they're called community development entities. Again, this is at the private sector level. We would just need to advertise that it's something that could be pursued. Okay, next.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What's considered a new market?
I believe when they came up with that name, it's to try and provide housing in distressed communities. And so they're considering that new market. Why they named it new market, I am not sure. I don't know. Savannah, do you happen to know why they named it that?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't look into that.
It's still housing.
It's for housing, yeah.
Huh.
And then the next one, option 6, is a sales and use tax deferral for commercial buildings with affordable housing. And this would fall under RCW 8259. The city council would have to authorize a sales and use tax deferral to obtain this benefit. I have everything in the presentation slides I'd be happy to provide. This is not going to be one of the recommended because I think it's going to be too much of a financial hit to Millwood. Next slide. And this one is crossed out altogether because I later determined we were not eligible for it. Next slide. So now that we've got through all the financial end and the options, I'll talk about what we've already done in the regulations to help address the affordable housing issue. So we have made the zoning changes that are needed to ensure capacity and reduce the regulatory barriers. The table of permitted uses now has 7 new middle housing uses, plus co-living and senior independent housing. We have refined the residential commercial mixed use to allow up to 3 types instead of just vertical. Now it would be vertical, horizontal, and live work buildings, which are similar to vertical, they're just designed slightly different. In the residential chapters of the code, we've made several provisions that help with allowing the uses easier and reducing the regulatory barriers, including updating the ADU standards to the state mandated requirements, which I think will bring in a lot of additional opportunity on ADUs. I have had the most contact about ADUs. And then we've also added in the new housing types. We've refined some of the development regulations to allow for the infill development, and then added other provisions that were required under state law. Next. Under the subdivision statute, the planning commission has decided at this point, recommended to increase from 4 to 9 lots, because you're allowed to go up to 9 on short plats. We have added the provisions for unit lot subdivisions and also for administrative lot splits, and then clarified and streamlined regulations. This was kind of a confusing section to use before, should be a whole lot easier to use now. Title 14 and Chapter 1744, everything has been updated and streamlined to reflect the new local project review requirements in state law, and also updated for consistency as well as current best practices. Again, much easier to use. And then also a new provision that came through as part of the local project review. If you do not meet your review deadlines, not anticipated that would happen to Millwood, but if it did, then an applicant could request a refund of permit fees up to a certain percentage. If you're able to put in at least 3 process improvements, that is null and void. So I've documented the 3 process improvements that Millwood is proposing to keep from having to do the refunds. First is entering into an interlocal agreement with another jurisdiction to share permitting staff and resources. And then I actually combined it with maintaining and budgeting for on-call permitting assistance for when permit volumes or staffing levels change rapidly. Because really the two kind of work together. One is mine and the other is City of Spokane Valley's. If you take them individually, then it'd be 4 options we created. Under RCW 3670B160 1A, expediting review for project permit applications and projects that are consistent with adopted development regulations or that include dwelling units that are affordable to low-income or moderate-income households. We have provided for this under Type 1 site plan reviews. So check that box off. There's our second one. Next. And finally, it's meeting with the applicant to attempt to resolve outstanding issues during the review process, and it goes into the specific requirements. This has also been added to Title 14, so we have that option in there. There's our 3. Check. Next. So, those are the primary regulatory incentives and streamlinings we have done. So you can have new housing types. You can have a much wider variety on ADUs and make much simpler to permit. You can simplify the subdivision and short plat standards, so it's easier to do that, along with all the other process streamlining. Now, do we think that is going to be enough? I say it's a combo. So my recommendation is to utilize all the regulatory incentives that we have incorporated in the drafts and utilize the options in blue, because they do not really cost the city anything. It's just advertising the programs. If that does not suffice, or we get kickback on it, then the next step I would say would be to look at the orange options. I'm not considering the black options really for Millwood. So I guess what I'm kind of looking at is a little bit of feedback on if you agree with that more conservative plan for Millwood and see how it goes.
So thank you, nice presentation. I agree completely. I think in the current state, financial affairs, national, economic, state, local, let's do the blue, then let's do probably 3B as opposed to 1B.
Okay.
So I would not be in favor of reduced sewer and water connection fees, especially in light of our utilities. We're looking at increases to meet capital improvements. So 3B.
Okay.
So, and option 6 off the table,
Yeah.
not realistic, so that's my feedback.
I agree with not 1B because it's a bargain in Millwood to hook up to water and sewer compared to other communities in the state.
Okay.
It's a bargain. If anything, we should be increased. And yes, and I think 3B is, it's not a bad idea, I think, because we could certainly have a whole mixture of ADUs out there that may not be appropriate for Millwood, period.
Yeah.
Not that we're the whole town's not a historical site, but still, we need to be somewhat of, I don't know, if conservative is the right word, but careful.
Sean and Tina?
So on 3B, can we leverage any work done by other jurisdictions on pre-approved ADU plans?
Yep, that's why I gave all the examples. So, that's how I came up with the design competition idea. I believe that was Redmond that used that. Obviously Millwood is not anywhere remotely close to Redmond, so we'd be looking probably somewhat more what Leavenworth did. But we have the examples, so if we need to utilize it, it'll minimize the staff research end of it.
Thank you, Sean.
You know, we're basically just trying to get this past the Department of Commerce as far as signing off.
And, future wise and, yeah.
I agree. All my questions were already asked and answered. Seriously. Definitely, 1B, no.
Okay.
I concur.
All right. Well, that is the direction we will continue to go then, and we'll work on, once everything's adopted, we'll work on getting the website updated with some of those resources to kick it off.
Can I just reiterate what I think my understanding is around what you're saying? You're gonna go ahead and move forward with all the blues. And even though we're pretty excited about 3B, hold that back in case there's actual pushback so that we don't have to dip into another.
Well, and
hole.
really see if it's a need in Millwood. I've had
Exactly.
so many people reach out about ADUs. Not one has asked about any incentive programs yet on it. So we can already say, by the way, there's these tax programs you can utilize. If we start hearing people are having trouble affording the ADUs and that's why they're not doing the projects, then that might be where we wanna start looking into that. And it could be a possibility, we could even utilize a prefab as the standard and get those preliminary approved. That would save even more money for the city.
That's one of my questions is it possible for us to have like a list, almost like how we do with the backflow, so we're not hand selecting a developer, but saying
Yes.
this is where you'd go since there is a 20% over like the incentives.
Yeah, we would though, anybody that's on that list, the city would have to pay to get it pre-approved through Valley for the permitting. So, we'd have to analyze how many we want on that list, and then the longevity of the company, all those things. So if we went for a hybrid, version of a Pradu program, we just have to, make sure, obviously, if you have designs, then you own the designs and you can carry them forward to any builder. For somebody that's doing a prefabricated, I have not seen anybody do that yet, but hey, we could be a first if needed. You just have to make sure that the programs are gonna be, or the suppliers are gonna be available long-term.
But for right now, we're keeping it in our back pocket.
Keeping it in the back pocket.
Thank you so much. Are there any more council comments?
Nope, thank you, very nice presentation.
It was awesome.
Did you have anything else, Amanda, that you wanted us to consider?
Not till item 6 on the agenda.
Perfect. So moving along on our council, or do we have any public remarks regarding the conversation that's taking place? Please give us your address. Going once, going twice, perfect. council, it says council or commission, but this is actually a council, meeting, so if you wanna have anything about what we talked about just today, hold on to generalized comments for the next meeting. All right, would you like to set the agenda? I know you have a list of upcoming meetings that you would like us to put on our calendars.
Yes, so the list of the meetings is actually in your council packet. But the next one upcoming is the planning commission, as we've done previously in the past 2 years in July. Wanted me to reach out and see if you were interested in doing a joint planning commission, city council workshop, prior to the public hearing on the development regulations. So essentially, it'd be a presentation very similar to what I'm gonna do for the public workshop. But it would be to make sure you guys are aware of what's going forth, so there'd be no surprises when the planning commission recommendation comes out. So if you are interested in that, that is the date and time that was proposed for that.
Okay, and Mike Ankeny was okay with that, cause I know at one time he was advocating for us to come to his turf.
He's okay with it.
Okay. Perfect. Any comments on the July 14th is our normal meeting, so this is just adding that additional hour. And of course, Bridget will call everybody to keep us all on target. Barring anything else, I'm ready for a motion to adjourn and we'll take a 30-minute break.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.